No, what are we going to do for our 100th video?
A regular video.
Oh. Hello, welcome to the Wulff Den. Today, we're going to talk about what makes a game perfect.
This is a tricky subject, because really, perfect is different for everybody.
Yes.
And yet, people will still come out and say, this game is perfect, that game is perfect. And then you'll get situations where a game will be rated 10 out of 10 by every website ever, but then they'll specifically go out of their way to say a 10 doesn't mean perfect.
Now, I've played games where I would never have wanted them to change anything.
Right.
I've played games like that. But I still don't know if I would call it perfect. Like, have you ever heard of a perfect movie?
Right. I would say the only game in my mind that would come close to like dictionary definition perfect is
Pong. Because there's literally nothing they could do to change that.
Right. I was going to say Resident Evil 4. And my reasoning for that is
Okay.
everything that the designers wanted to do for that game, they pretty much did. And it's designed in a way that like everything fits, everything works, nothing's broken. It flows naturally. The action is naturally. The pace is natural. Everything about that just fits so well together.
Well,
that's like the closest I would consider a game to be perfect. Basically, like the absence of negativity. Like a few weeks back when we did like our favorite games of all time.
Right.
Like I can pick a flaw with just about every single one of them except Resident Evil 4.
Right.
Like that's the only one I would consider, perfect, because there really is nothing structurally wrong with that game.
I would consider The Last of Us close to perfect, but
right.
I mean, they have that whole thing with Ellie, how it's hard to. She can walk in front of a bunch of bad guys and they won't recognize her.
Yeah, so things like that will break the immersion. That removes the
right. But I understand why they didn't put that in the game. They didn't have a lot of time,
right?
And it
would have completely changed the game.
It would have completely changed the game. Yeah, it would have made the game a lot harder. And I mean, you would get caught for no fault of your own because this idiot get runs in front of the way.
Here's the problem though with going by a website's ranking for 10 out of 10 or by game rankings or Metacritic. Things change all the damn time.
And it's an opinion.
And it's an opinion, right. Going back to like game rankings and Metacritic, game rankings list of the best games ever. And
this is a conglomerate of all of the
that's
review
the thing.
websites.
It's a conglomerate of all the review websites at the time. There were less websites around when they reviewed Mario 64 and Soul Calibur than there are now that are reviewing Grand Theft Auto 4 and 5, Mario Galaxy, Uncharted. And in terms of like websites throwing out 10s, a 10, every console generation, a 10 means something different.
Right.
So, I mean, that should never be the measure of a perfect game, is whether a website gives it a 10.
A lot of people consider Ocarina of Time as the holy grail.
Right.
The best game ever.
Right.
Masterpiece. That game's a piece of shit. Let me tell you why. Because you shouldn't... I mean, a game like that's for kids, you shouldn't have to use a strategy guide. And in that game, you have to use a strategy guide.
Right.
You have to. And anybody who says they didn't is a liar.
Because I know people are going to say, well, just because you need to use a strategy guide doesn't make it...
I use a strategy guide for Resident Evil 2.
I use a strategy guide.
I
use a strategy guide for the first few Metal Gear Solids. It's using a strategy guide. I don't think should be... That's a whole nother topic for a whole nother time.
Super Mario Galaxy, right now, is the top rated game on game rankings.
But and I love that game. We don't own that, and we need to fix that.
We don't own it.
Yeah, we need to fix that. But I wouldn't consider that game perfect.
Actually, it's Super Mario Galaxy, Ocarina of Time, Super Mario Galaxy 2.
Yeah. Perfect means something specific. Like, if it's off by a little bit, then it's not perfect anymore.
There can be an improvement, then it's not perfect.
Exactly.
A lot, like, when you're working on something, like when I'm working on a painting,
Yeah.
there just comes a point where you have to go, all right, I can't do this anymore. Like, I can work on it forever.
Yeah.
Because it'll never be perfect. But you just have to... At some point, you're just like, all right, forget it. This is it. If I keep tweaking it, I'm just going to mess up something else.
Yeah.
So that's how video games are. Like, you can work on it forever, but it'll never be perfect.
Yeah. My point is that whenever something is rated a 10, you have to look at it within the group that it's being rated in, basically. Okay, this handheld game is a 10, but does that mean it's a 10 across the board, or is it a 10 in the handheld world? Right.
Well, a game like Pokemon, like the original Pokemon Red.
Right.
If we played that on what was that, Nintendo 64?
Yeah, that era.
If we played that on Nintendo 64, I think it would have been just as good.
Perfect example, Metal Gear Solid for the Game Boy Color, 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
That game is not better than Snake Eater. And Metal Gear Solid 4, Guns of the Patriots, that's also got a 10 out of 10. Those games are not better than Snake Eater. They're not better than Twin Snakes. They're not better than Sons of Liberty.
But it's because that Metal Gear 4 came out on the PlayStation 3 when things were a lot more complicated.
At the time,
it got a 10 out of 10.
At the time, it's a 10 out of 10. But now, I mean,
I would much rather play Snake Eater.
Yeah,
definitely.
Now you look at it that's not a 10 out of 10 game, and I think even people who work at IGN will admit that's not a 10 out of 10 game.
Right.
It's mainstream gaming media's fault that there's a whole concept of perfect, because I'm not opposed to rating games. I'm not opposed to the rating system, but I think it carries so much unnecessary weight. Where an 8.9 game is 100 times worse than a 9.0 game. That's just the mindset that we've been given.
The whole question here is what makes a game perfect.
Right.
We've just been talking about how a game can't be perfect.
A game
which is
when you feel
valid.
When you feel that there is nothing more that can be added to a game that can make it better, then it's perfect. But only you know that. Not IGN, not GameSpot, not Kotaku, not Polygon, not The Escapist. Only you.
So perfect games for you. Resident Evil 4.
Honestly, that's about it. I mean, I'm going through my favorite games right now.
Alright, perfect games. Pong. You literally can't change that.
You can't change. You can make it better. I mean,
but no, then it won't be Pong.
It would still be Pong.
It would be Pong DX edition.
They've made 1,000 different types of Pong. They have,
but none of them have been as good as Pong. Alright, Sonic 3.
As much as I love that game, there can be improvements to that
Screw
game.
Screw you. The original Mario Brothers.
That's a situation where, alright, the original Mario Brothers is on a base level is fine the way it is. But then you look at all the Mario games that have come after it.
Yeah.
And then it's just okay, that gets pushed to the side, and then this is now the new gold standard for Mario.
Right.
Okay, Super Mario Brothers.
But at the time...
At the time, yes. But, like I said, times change, technology changes. That's why Resident Evil 4, we're now 2 generations past it.
Right.
And I can't think of a single thing that they could do to improve it. I mean...
Resident Evil 4 was perfect for you, but in 10 years, there'll be better games. Then you'll see, they should have done this in Resident Evil 4. And then you'll go back and play Resident Evil 4 and you'll go,
no,
I wish they had this.
I've done that, I'm just no, this is fine the way it is. I played a lot of games that improve upon what Resident Evil 4 did. Gears of War with its cover shooting. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but games with better melee combat. Games that implement QuickTime events better.
There were escort missions in Resident Evil 4.
But they never felt like a problem. You could tell her to wait, and you can go take care of everything, and then come back to her. You could tell her to hide in the garbage, and then go back to her.
Yeah.
And she's not useless. She'll tell you, hey, shoot those, Leon, look out. Hey, there's a med kit over here. She wasn't a burden. That's why that makes it the best escort mission in all video games.
So, in conclusion, there is no such thing as a perfect game.
Right. If you feel like a game is perfect,
Then you're a liar.
then that's only your opinion, though. Only you know what a perfect game is, but your perfect game is never going to be my perfect game or anybody else's perfect game.
On that note, what games do you think are perfect?
Let us know in the comments below.
Add us on what?
I was going to say, or in our Facebook group page
Yes,
thingy.
we have one. Talk to us, so we're not lonely anymore.
And on the Twitter.
Yes, animations to follow.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Like this video, subscribe to us.
Share it with your buddies.
Please, have a good week.
In fact, their origin is a very specific reference to Daredevil.
Exactly.
So,
And not to mention, they full on murder the Shredder
yes,
in the first one.
he blows himself up.
Yeah.
Most of these ROM sites have ads floating around that look like download links, so don't be fooled. Take your time and only click on links that you're certain are download links.